In August 2021, the world is seeing the Taliban retake command in Afghanistan after 20 years out of power when they were expelled in 2001 by Western forces led by the United States. The biggest cities in the country have already passed to the command of the group that is a mixture of Islamic fundamentalist sect and guerrilla. But did you know that the Taliban can also be considered as Afghanistan's most powerful commercial and financial enterprise, controlling up to $1.6 billion a year? And that Afghanistan is considered the most dangerous country in the world? In this video, we will understand more about Afghanistan and the economic link between terrorism and the Taliban. But before that, make sure to subscribe to this new channel to see more videos that will cover, analyze, and reveal economic aspects behind countries' successes and failures, and other economic interesting facts around the world. Afghanistan is a country with a geostrategic location being located between the Middle East and Central Asia. The country has been marked by conflicts, wars, and terrorism throughout its history, which has contributed to the country's extreme poverty. According to data from the latest report available from the Global Terrorism Index, from 2020, Afghanistan in 2019 was the country most affected by terrorism in the world, and the one that had the most economic costs arising from terrorism. The economic cost of terrorism for the country was the equivalent of 16.7% of the gross domestic product, being far ahead of the second place, Syria, with 3.4%. Additionally, the economic cost of violence was an incredible 40.3% of the country's GDP. Furthermore, according to the World Bank data for 2020 and according to projections by the International Monetary Fund for 2021, Afghanistan is at the end of the list of the richest countries in the world. In other words, it is among the 10 poorest countries in the world, having a GDP or per capita income of approximately $592. Decades of war and terrorism have also recently made Afghanistan the most dangerous country in the world. Since 2018, the country occupies the first place as the most dangerous country in the world, having surpassed Iraq. The country is currently in the first place, with the 2019 score having been maintained, accounting for 9,592 points in the terrorism indicator, which is an indicator that compiles information on 4 parameters: incidents, fatalities, injuries, and property damages. Afghanistan's history also blends with the Taliban's history. The Taliban is basically a group adhering to a fundamentalist interpretation of Islam, that is, an extremist interpretation. This group was created in 1994 by former guerrillas who participated in the confrontation with Soviet molds in the country at the time. From 1994 to 1996, the Taliban gained exclusive control over most of the country. For the next 5 years, the group controlled Afghanistan until, starting in 2001, the US offensive, following the incidents of September 11, 2001, removed the group from power. The Americans believed that, in addition to hiding Al-Qaeda members, the Taliban financed the terrorist group responsible for the 9/11 attacks. The US strategy for Afghanistan was to strengthen the country's government and army so that they themselves would prevent the Taliban from taking power again. Far from official command of the past 20 years, the Taliban has reinvented and restructured itself into what can be considered Afghanistan's most powerful commercial and financial enterprise with several economic activities. Analyzing the latest Taliban numbers, starting from 2016 to the present day, we can get an idea of the economic power and activities of the group in the country. According to a 2016 Forbes report on the 10 richest terrorist organizations in the world, the Taliban was ranked 5th with an estimate annual turnover of $400 million US. The data can be confirmed by looking at the 2016 Global Terrorism Index report. The group's sources of income derive from legal and illegal activities, with most of the sources being illegal. These sources are basically drugs, exploration of mineral resources, extortation and taxes, charitable donations, exports, properties, and funding from supporting countries. Most of the Taliban's income comes from drug-related activities. In 2016, of the $400 million in revenue, approximately $200 million was from the trafficking and commercialization of opium. Opium is one of Afghanistan's main economic activities. To get an idea, according to the latest report by the United Nations Department on Drugs and Crime for 2021, Afghanistan was responsible for 83% of the world's opium production in the period from 2015 to 2020. Fast forwarding to 2020/2021, the Taliban figures revealed a 300% growth in the group's budget compared to 2016, reaching a milestone of $1.6 billion US. In other words, the Taliban in just 5 years has quadrupled its revenue. And the consequence of this was the strengthening of the group in the country, facilitating the resumption of power and control in Afghanistan. The United Nations itself, in the United Nations Security Council Charter of 2020, estimates that Taliban revenues would be between $300 million and $1.5 billion US per year. This discrepancy in values is due to the lack of data due to illegal activities and difficult to measure. Considering the amount of $1.6 billion US released by the Taliban and contained in the report obtained by Radio Free Europe, the breakdown of the Taliban's budget shows that in 2020, the group obtained approximately $416 million US from the drugs since the Taliban administers the opium in the areas under its control. Another source was the mining of iron ore, marble, copper, gold, zinc, and other metals, which generated around $400 to $464 million US. As a government, the Taliban imposes taxes on people and industries in its area of control. This forced collection, often through extortion, generating $160 million for the group. The Taliban also receives secret financial contributions from private donors and international institutions around the world, sympathetic to the cause. This source of revenue generated $240 million US. Finally, the group received around $240 million US and $80 million US from economic activities related to exports and real estate and properties, respectively, and large part of which was linked to money laundering. We can see that Taliban power contrasts sharply with the weakened Afghan government. The result is the victory and rapid retake of control of the country after the departure of US forces. Unless a global action is taken, the Taliban will remain an extremely rich organization, with a self-sustaining funding and external support from regional countries. Well, now that you know a little more about the link between Afghanistan and the Taliban, and how the latter has become the most powerful commercial and financial enterprise in the country, help this channel by saying what other country or economic issue would you like us to look at. Leave your answer in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our new channel for new videos, where we'll cover, analyze, and reveal economic aspects behind countries' successes and failures and other economic interesting facts around the world. Oh, and don't forget to activate the bell to stay on top of the news on this channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then,